The draft order for the non-playoff teams has been set for the 2021 NFL Draft. I am your host, Tom Downey, here to run you through it and then take a little more in-depth look at what each of the teams picking in the top 18, well, I guess the 17 teams picking the top 18 could do. All right, 1 through 5 here to get things going. The Jags and Jets clinched the 1 and 2 spots before Week 17, so congrats to those teams for maybe getting a new quarterback, although Jets might not feel quite the same way right now. Dolphins get the number 3 pick thanks to the Laramie Tunsil trade via the Houston Texans. Damn, that worked out pretty well for them. Atlanta Falcons picking number 4, and then the Cincinnati Bengals have the number 5 pick at 4, 11, and 1. That's where they check in. All right, moving on now to the number 6 overall spot. The Eagles at 4, 11, and 1. The Lions at 5 and 11. The Panthers and Broncos also are all 5 and 11. Quick note, tiebreakers, it just pretty much goes right to strength of schedule, so just keep that in mind. Don't blame me, it's from the NFL. All right, number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. They sneak into a top 10 pick thanks to losing in Week 17. The Giants go from into the top 10 to outside of it. They're at number 11. The Niners are at number 12. Chargers, Vikings, Patriots all check in at 7 and 9. They're 13, 14, and 15. The Arizona Cardinals and Raiders both 8 and 8. They're there at 16 and 17. And then one of these teams isn't like the other. The 10 and 6 Dolphins are number 18. So even though they finished with a better record than Washington and Chicago, they will pick 18 before those teams because they did not make the postseason. Now, who will be the number 1 pick? It's going to Jacksonville. It's probably going to be Trevor Lawrence, but I know there are some Justin Fields truthers in there. So this is your opportunity. You get hit with the ad break here. Just scroll on down and get your votes in. Who do you believe will end up being the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft? All right, more in depth on both of these teams here. Congrats, Jacksonville. You get your pick of whoever you want. Regardless of how Justin Fields played against Clemson, it's probably going to be Trevor Lawrence number 1 overall. So congrats, Jacksonville. You get the guy Jets fans spent the entire season pining after. And now New York is in an interesting position. Assuming, of course, Lawrence goes number 1, they could go Justin Fields out of Ohio State, Zach Wilson out of BYU, or they could just not go quarterback at all. They could just roll with Sam Darnold. I am of the mindset at this point you're probably better off taking a quarterback, but you guys can get your votes in here. What should the New York Jets do at the quarterback spot? Type 1 for draft somebody, or type 2 for, you know what, let's take a different player, trade down, something like that, acquire assets, and see if Sam Darnold can be the guy. If you think it's that, type in your 2 in the comments section. All right, the Dolphins picking number 3 because they got the Texans' first-round pick because Bill O'Brien gave a haul for Laramie Tunsil, who's a great football player, but, oh boy, a top 3 pick via the Texans going 4 and 12. Miami in a good spot. They are an obvious trade-down team if a team picking maybe even out to the top 5 wants to go get a Wilson/Fields at number 3 overall. Dolphins are in a great spot. I like where they're sitting. They can trade down, go receiver, go offensive line. Good spot for Miami as they continue to build, in theory, around Tua. Number 4, the Atlanta Falcons. They're in kind of a pivotal offseason. They're going to overhaul their front office and their coaching staff, and once they do that, I think we'll have a better feel for what they're going to do. Do they roll it and go back with Matt Ryan for another year or 2 or 3 or whatever, or in the top 5, do they draft a quarterback? That's going to be a fun spot for Atlanta. Bengals probably aren't going to go quarterback. They have Joe Burrow, who should be healthy at some point next season, or worst case 2022. But they need offensive line help. They should go do that in free agency in a big-time way. They could use another receiver because I don't think A.J. Green, John Ross are coming back. Wouldn't it be fun, by the way, to reunite Joe Burrow with his favorite target, Jamar Chase? I think it makes some sense. And by the way, speaking of, we go through draft prospects here and potential fits, who wants a mock draft later this week? If you guys like this video, that'll help the bosses here at Chat Sports go, okay, Tom, you can do your weird draft stuff. It's fine. If you guys want that mock draft, help me out and like this video. All right, the Eagles, they're picking now at number 6. And you know what? Speaking of quarterbacks, don't they have to consider it? In fact, this is kind of the quarterback interesting range, right? Like, if you're Philadelphia, tell you what, Carson Wentz didn't look very good. Jalen Hurts got benched. Nate Sudfeld played, and he sucks. I think you have to at least consider the Detroit Lions. Similar boat, right? You're picking number 7 overall. I like Matthew Stafford. He's on the wrong side of 30. You could move him to a team that's contending, Colts, Niners, maybe, and reset. Carolina. I'm a Teddy Bridgewater truther, but he was always a stopgap with that contract. They could take a quarterback, sit him for a year, half the year, and then move on. Denver's in a unique spot. I think they're going to roll it back with Drew Lock for one more year, so maybe they go defense instead, but they could also at least consider quarterback. Dallas, if they pay like a smart team, although they don't go quarterback, they go probably defense, though there are some Kyle Pitts truthers out there because, yeah, just ignore defense some more. Interesting spot there. I think that 9 to 6 range, that could be the core spot for either trade up or a couple quarterbacks go off the board. So how many go in round 1? I think you have 4 locks, right? Assuming, of course, these all guys all go pro, blah, blah, blah. Justin Fields in no order. Fields, Lawrence, Wilson, Trey Lance. Does a Mac Jones, does a Kyle Trask sneak into round 1? I think no on Trask, maybe on Mac Jones. So I'll put the over-under at 4.5. How many quarterbacks go in round 1 this year? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. All right, the Giants there at number 11 with where they're sitting outside the top 10. Probably going to roll it back with Daniel Jones for one more year. Defense was better than expected. The offense was not. They invested heavily in the offensive line this past offseason. They could look at a linebacker. I don't think Micah Parsons falls to 11, but be a good landing spot for him. Meanwhile, the Niners are there at number 12. Their biggest decision is probably going to be what to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. If he's their guy for at least one more year, they don't go quarterback. Could they try and make a move, a splash trade, go on, trade for somebody, trade up in the draft? If not, the secondary is going to lose some very key pieces at corner in all likelihood in this year and next year. The Chargers there at number 13, and same with Minnesota too, really at 14. I think offensive line makes a lot of sense for these teams. Minnesota could also look defense because they overhauled a lot of their key pieces last year. The Chargers, though, maybe a receiver if you lose Mike Williams at some point. I think you're going offense here and continue to build around your young quarterback, Justin Herbert. Meanwhile, the Patriots are in a bit of an awkward spot. That's kind of the worst spot to be as far as I'm concerned if you need a franchise guy. You're at 15. So if you want to go up and get somebody, it's expensive. You're not going to find, in most cases, the same caliber of quarterback that you would in the top, at least in terms of prospects. So the Patriots just try and fill the gap for the time being. Do they move up? I'll tell you what could be fun. How about Kyle Pitts here at number 15? Give the Patriots an actual dynamic option in the receiving game. Now, if you guys want draft videos all off season long, hit that big red button and subscribe today. That way, you don't miss any of those we put out. We'll break down some prospects, do some needs videos, do plenty of mock drafts. If you guys like this video today, of course, hit that big red button and subscribe. That way you don't miss out on anything. The Arizona Cardinals, we mentioned them, number 16, seemed like they were going to make the playoffs, and then things kind of got away from them late in the season. Honestly, outside of DeAndre Hopkins, you might want to go get another receiver because Fitzgerald's aging. Christian Kirk didn't have the breakout year I thought he was going to. Kyle Pitts, again, could be a fun fit here. The defense could use some more impact pieces. They really miss Chandler Jones. Oh, Patrick Peterson. He's a free agent. Yeah, they got plenty of options here. The Raiders, 8-8. They're probably going to roll it back with Derek Carr next year. It's fine. Offensive line might go a bit of an overhaul, but once again, here we are in an off season and going, Raiders, they need defensive help. The pressure hasn't been there in terms of sacks. They might once again be in the market for a pass rusher. And then Miami, their second of their 2 first-round picks, both in the top 18. Offensive line, receiver, they're in a very unique position where because they've had a lot of draft capital in recent years, because they spent a lot of big money in free agency, they don't have a ton of obvious needs, so they might be able to just do solid upgrades with the best player on the board. That's exactly how teams deep down truly want to be able to draft. Now, focusing only on these 18 teams, including Houston, of course, that missed the playoffs. Which team is most likely to make it next season? I think there are two that make a lot of sense here, and they're both got teams who at least lost their quarterback for most of the year. San Francisco, if they're just healthier next year, is going to be a legit threat. But as soon as the 2021 NFC East odds come out, we know who's going to be number one, right? It's the Cowboys. A healthy Dak Prescott. They brought back Kellen Moore, and a draft and offseason that should focus mostly on the defense. I think the Cowboys are the most likely team. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section.